Hello and welcome to Tech Circle. Today we are joined by Vamsi Krishna, CEO and co-founder of education tech startup Vedantu. Thank you, Vamsi, for taking the time out and joining us today. And we'll start, Vamsi, with an overview of Vedantu's performance last year. Was it really in sync with the tailwind that the sector witnessed?
Of course, last year has been crazy, right? It's almost like a guilty pleasure because I think the whole industry, it was tough on the overall industry and also personally. But as far as business is concerned, this was most amazing. I would say probably one of the best growth years for Vedantu and industry in general. Shweta, as you know, live tutoring, which is the format in which Vedantu specializes in, right? So that's a category which we created way back in 2014, in which we specialize in giving live synchronous classes, right? So that's really the category which in 2020, given the COVID situation, really took off, right, and became mainstream with all the schools, principals, teachers, everyone talking about online classes. I think the live classes of Vedantu really took off. I think in all the core metrics, given now free users, paid users, revenue, I think everything grew from 6 times to 7 times year on year. Even before COVID, I would say edtech, online education, something which has been growing very strongly, right? So overall, as a company, we're growing around 2.5 to 3 times year on year before COVID. But I think this COVID has really even accelerated that. And I think all the core metrics, we saw 6x to 7x kind of an increase.
Okay. And what, in your opinion, were the major factors that drove Vedantu's growth in 2020?
I think the situation globally and in India, of course, given the fact that lockdown was initiated and given the pandemic, schools were shut down and all the offline tutoring centers and coaching centers, people, parents especially, were not comfortable sending their kid there. Obviously, all of that resulted in online education as probably the only option available for the parents to ensure that the continuity of education goes on, right? So I think I would say that is the single biggest factor as far as the overall industry is concerned. For Vedantu being the largest player in K-12 live tutoring, needless to say, being the category leaders in that, for this particular category, obviously, naturally, the top of the mind awareness was there, and lot of students tried it, right, for the first time and then converted. Let me just give you some stats on this, actually, right? So in the month of Jan, right, just before the COVID, we used to have around 90,000 unique students who would come and take a live class on Vedantu app, right? So this is the free live classes. So if you know, on Vedantu, we have a lot of free classes which we do, right? And that the agenda is to give out as many classes, exposure to classes as possible, so that parents and students can look at the quality of those classes, quality of the teachers, and then convert, right? So this is a normal routine way we do this. So in Jan, this number was around 90,000, and after COVID, I think we hit out a peak, I think somewhere around July or around July, August, which this number became crossed 1.5 million, right? Unique students taking a live class on Vedantu. So that's the kind of a jump we saw, right?
Okay. And talking numbers, would you also say that revenue improved? And were there also any changes in cost or expenses, etc.?
Yeah, that's a great question, Shweta. Yeah, the cost part, in fact, let me first cover the first part of this question, which is the revenue. Mm-hmm. So I think, yes, everything, right? So if I just look at our annual growth as the company, still this year is not yet over, right? But, estimating in all the core metrics, which is, let's say, our free users, we saw more than 10x increase. In our paid subscribers, I think this year we would be crossing almost more than 250,000 unique paid subscribers for the year. This number used to be around 45,000 last year, right? So this again is almost more than almost like a 6x, 6.5x increase, right? In terms of revenue, we saw a very similar 7x increase, right, from where we were last year to this year. So yes, to your question, I think almost all the core metrics, being the paid users, the free users, the number of hours, these kids spent on the platform, and revenue as a consequence, everything grew substantially during this 2020-21.
And also, do you think lockdown trends triggered any modification in content strategies for the company?
I would say a lot of it was very organic for us, right? So, for example, when this whole situation began, I still remember in 2020 March last week, when we all went into a lockdown mode. The first and foremost thing we did is made our platform free for all the users, right? Because schools went under a lockdown, there was absolutely no way for kids to study. So we went out and not just Vedantu, I would say a lot of education companies took this bold step and made their platform free. And we were one of the earliest ones to do that. So we made our base subscription free for all the users. That's the first thing we did. What that resulted in is obviously a massive influx, right? And we were not prepared for it because this was the start of the year, and that required a lot of teachers. And the initial 1 month went into a lot of, I would say, firefighting, wherein we had to really, ramp up our teaching supply and, make that possible. So yes, there were a lot of operational as well as other things which we had to really, work out in the first month. I think after April it was smooth, but April was pretty chaotic in that sense. That's first thing. Second thing which happened when we made this step, we took this step. We saw a lot of organic users coming in for categories in which we had no presence. So, for example, before COVID, we were largely present in 6th grade to 12th grade in K-12.
Yeah.
But we saw a lot of users coming in for even pre-K5. And what we did is we then in the month of June, we launched our K5 division, right? So even for 5-year-olds to 10-year-olds, we launched a new category, right? And that's, I would say, was a brand new addition, and that naturally happened, organically happened because of the response we saw during the COVID period as well, right? So that's one big thing we did. The second thing we saw is the mobile usage, right? It really, from tier 2, tier 3 cities, that really shot up substantially. So we had to revamp the content for the mobile form factor, right? So obviously Vedantu on mobile was always available, but the content was not really super optimized for mobile. So that was the second step we took, right, for that. So these were the two very strong, clear steps I remember taking.
And also, how was the employment cycle? How has it been really? Did the trainers also see any significant jump in hours of classes they took and also the pay?
Yes. Right. So not in terms of hours of classes they took, but in terms of the number of students who would attend those classes, right? So which consequently also has an impact on the payouts. So yeah, very, very, very rightly so, both in terms of the number of teachers we took this year and also in terms of the payouts. Like we have a payout structure which also has a component of this in it, right? So it really resulted in a greater payout to the teachers. But I would say the bigger impact has really been on the influx of the teachers themselves we have taken, right? And here I would like to have a distinction also. There are two kinds of teachers at Vedantu. One, we have the master teachers, we call it, who are the main ones to take the class. And then we have the secondary teachers, we call them class teachers, right? So there are a lot of class teachers also we took. And this provided a very, very big employment opportunity for housewives, for others, like, who were there in lockdown. And unfortunately, a lot of them actually had a lot of struggle with finding jobs or probably had lost their jobs. I would say, like, at least we could do our bit there and provide a very good option for them to continue to do their work and earn sitting from their home.
Would you have a percentage of the employment that has gone up, the headcount?
Definitely. I think from last year, the number of, at least the main teachers we actually grew by almost, like we grew by 3x on that, right? And the secondary teachers, I think there we grew by almost 4.5x, right? Okay. So yeah.
This year also, do you think the momentum, is to be in par with of the last years?
No, of course not. So I don't think the rates would be same. Momentum, definitely yes, right? Because so Shweta, a lot of things have happened, right? And I'm very sure as all of us are also having witnessed this ourselves. There are a lot of fundamental shifts which has happened, right? Forget education, even in our professional lives. Earlier, the kind of over-indexing I used to do on physical meetings has certainly reduced, right? Now I do believe that a lot of these things can happen online, right? Or at least if 4 meetings out of that 3 meetings can definitely happen online, right? When a lot of this heavy lifting and a lot of this stuff, when we as professionals believe now can be done online, naturally that has given this thought to every parent that if work can happen online, and if we can do some of these core critical stuff online which we earlier did not think was possible, so maybe learning and teaching can also happen online. Yeah. Right? And that's a permanent shift in the mindset and the attitude itself, right? And for us, it's a big thing, because I can tell you this, being in this field for so many years, the single biggest reason we determined to our online business was, for a parent, they never thought of this as a serious thing. They always thought of this as, it's a side thing.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe yes, because they never experienced this themselves. Because when we were students, we obviously didn't study like this, right? So for them, it's very natural to expect that, you go to an offline and you study from a mom and pop tuition teacher, right? But given this pandemic, two things happened. One is their own work changed, so that gave them a belief that yes, if I can do it, maybe learning and teaching can also happen. Second is all of them witnessed online, because by force, by schools, all of these things shifted. So all of them witnessed this, and now in their mind, it's a very viable option, right? So in their mind, it's a clear viable option. And so hence, going forward, online is going to be a very, very strong consideration in their mind always, right? And I'm very sure now they know that the kind of time and energy waste which happens in traveling so much and doing so much, if there are certain things which can be shifted online, they will be ready to experiment with it, they will be ready to try it, and they will be ready to adopt it. So definitely before COVID, we were at a 3x kind of a trajectory, 3x year on year. COVID has made it 7x. I would say somewhere in between is where I would expect the next year to be.
Yeah, because I was also going to ask about schools, because gradually they are reopening, and in that scenario also, do you expect an evolved traffic?
Oh, yeah, I mean, so if you look at Vedantu in specific, right, we were never competing with schools any which ways, right? We were always a supplementary to school. So we were always operating in the after school tutoring segment, right? Yeah. So never ever is in our positioning we say that stop sending your child to school and send. That's not the positioning at all, right? Our positioning is different. What we always believe is, after the school, lot of parents, right, majority of them send their kid to an offline mom and pop tutoring center or a coaching center, yeah. Right? That is where we position ourselves, and that is where we say that we are a 10x better option to that, because one, the quality of the teacher is immensely better, because it's very natural, right? In an offline, you are stuck with a 3 or 4 kilometer geography around your house. If you're lucky, you'll get a good teacher, but here we don't have that constraint. We can get the best teacher from anywhere in the country, and that's one. Second is the cost factor. One is of course the travel and energy loss. But here, even because of online medium and we don't have the infrastructure and 10 other things, the cost at which we deliver our service is at best 20 to 30% lower than the offline options. So, yeah.
And what are Vedantu's plans for this year in terms of, say, content strategy or delivery methodology, etc.?
A lot, actually. I think innovation is the core pillar. I think in online education, it's still very early. It's still day one for us. Lot of innovations in the pipeline. We are very soon going to come up with a big announcement wherein we are going to launch our completely redesigned live platform, which will continue to set the benchmark for how an online teaching and learning can be. Right. Apart from that, a lot of innovations in terms of content. Yeah. And in terms of probably adding few categories is something which we are looking forward to do this year.
Okay. And about fundraising, anything in cards this year too?
It's I mean that's a question which I always answer like it's not always that we are out for a fundraise, but many a times it does happen, as with last year also. We were actually not actively doing that, but a good partner comes along and there is a mutual interest, and these things happen. So we're obviously open for such things, but yeah, as far as Vedantu is concerned, not going and doing active fundraising, but always most of these things happen by inbounds and people we've been in touch with, and suddenly there is a mutual interest and these things happen. So yeah, very much open to that and look forward to that.
About the competition in the space, obviously it has intensified since last year, and do you see any consolidation also happening? Because
a lot. So if you look at it, actually competition has not intensified; it has consolidated a lot over the last 1 year. Although you hear a lot of like probably early stage, but if you look at actually the space in from a 30,000 feet view, I would say the last year has been more consolidation than intensifying of more players. In fact, the players have reduced, right? So for us, it's I think we don't really think a lot on that. We feel that 1 year is a very, very short time, right? When you look at something as big as education, and when your mission is to change something as fundamental as teaching and learning, right? So our philosophy internally is we don't think competition. At least at Vedantu, I can tell you, we don't think competition a lot. We really respect and try to learn from them, definitely, right? But we obsess over students. And as long as, and this is something that I would love to tell to any education company or any early stage edupreneur who's starting up, I think definitely be obsessed over a student, and that would always guide you in the right path.